Hello. Sorry, I'm doing this off of my tablet, and I haven't done a live from my tablet before. Hello everybody. Can you guys hear me? Can you shoot me a little comment if you can hear me? I'm not seeing any comments come through. Getting a few people on here. Give people just a few more minutes before I jump in. Can I get some thumbs or some comments to let me know you can hear me, please? This will be the insurance live. I'm gonna pull everybody up on my phone too. Oh, okay. So I can see comments on my phone, can't see comments on the tablet. Good to know. So I'll just be double screening it here. Ooh, I should mute this so I don't hear myself talking back. So as people trickle in and join, just to give you guys a little bit of background on me, I am in Arizona. I have been doing insurance for about 12 years now. I have done both the personal line side of it, so like your home and auto and things like that, and the commercial side of it, so your small businesses, and specifically focused on small business commercial insurance. So I only spent about 4 years doing personal, so the rest of it has been in commercial. It was my first love. Love the picture behind you. It would look fantastic on a cookie. Yeah, that would. That's my sister-in-law's artwork, actually. I'm in her salon right now. She does hair, so another small business owner. So yeah, I spent a good majority of my time doing commercial insurance, anywhere from your contractors to Main Street businesses to home-based businesses, lawyers' offices, and everything in between. So I have sold insurance. I have kind of what I do right now is I consult in the kind of making of the product for things that are newer businesses coming up in the world. So pretty well versed in it. My dog's name is Liability. I call her Billy. So if that doesn't prove my insurance nerdiness, I don't know what does. My other dog's name is Cosmo. We say that he is cause of loss, Mo, which is another insurance term. So that's just a little bit of my insurance nerdy background. So hopefully you guys are ready to ask all the questions that you have. bring your notebooks. If you have your insurance policy that you can pull up so you can kind of look for some of the keywords that I'll be talking about today, that would be really good too. And I will be open to messages if you want to shoot me a message after this, and just kind of let me know what questions you might have. So let's get started. What is insurance? What's it for? Do you want it? Do you need it? What's it all about? We all know that auto insurance is required to be able to drive. Everybody pretty much has to have auto insurance. Home insurance many times is required by your lender, so that's covered there. Unfortunately, businesses are not required to have insurance, which I think is it kind of sucks, because the policy, I think, is much more needed for businesses, both for the business owner and for the customer. If you're just starting out in the cookie business or any home-based business at all, there's actually a tiny little bit of coverage built into your home insurance, and it's based on the amount of sales that you did the previous year, but it's very small. You don't want to rely on your home insurance, because having a home insurance claim is going to put you in a tier of risk that many home insurers don't want to take on, especially a liability claim. So liability, what does that mean? Liability is third-party responsibility, so my responsibility as a business owner to my clients. Your responsibility as a homeowner to anybody who comes to your home, and for any reason. That includes people visiting, family, non-family, birthday parties, contractors doing work at your home. So if somebody's on the roof and they fall off the roof, you could be brought into that if there was a lawsuit or something like that. So just a little bit of background there. Why do you need it? There's different parts of insurance coverage that is going to be useful for you and your clients. So there's the general liability part, which I think a lot of people have heard. There is the property portion of it. So if you have a brick and mortar, this will cover something happening to the building that you're in. There's some coverage if you're a renter. There's some different coverage if you're the owner of the building. If somebody were to get sick because of the cookies that you gave them, that would be covered under your insurance. There's a portion in the insurance that covers you for copyright infringement. So you would probably have a difficult time winning a lawsuit if you were doing, say, Disney cookies and Disney came after you, but you would still have a defense, at least from your insurance. But where this is really helpful is like your logo. Let's say that you created a logo and somebody said, hey, that looks a lot like my logo, and they decided to take you to court. You would have defense here, and if you had to pay out some sort of money to this other business owner who said, hey, we lost a bunch of clients because of their confusion with this, there could be some money that your policy would cover. And then, of course, the big piece of it is the general liability. General liability can be if you are, let's say, teaching a cookie class and somebody trips over a wire, the wire that's connected from your projector to the computer, that is going to be covered under general liability. If you're at a vendor's event and your tent flies away because there was a bunch of wind and it takes out another tent, or it takes out some of the people that were there, that's going to be covered under your general liability. Any products of other people that were damaged in that is going to be covered under general liability. Again, liability is third party, so it's not going to cover your stuff and your losses, but it will cover what you would be responsible for others. Feel free to put some comments in if you have questions as I'm going through this stuff. So definitely, I think it's something that is necessary to have. One scenario that we had is a contractor got insurance from us early one day, and the next day they filed a claim. There was a house fire. Unfortunately, when we investigated that claim, we realized that the house fire had happened the day before. They, sorry, let my dog out. The house fire had happened the day before they filed, or they started the insurance policy, so there was no coverage for that. Not only was there no coverage, but now they have fraud on their hands. So you don't want to be that person who decides they need insurance after something happens. Question here is, speaking of logos, if one was created in Canva, are there additional licenses that need to be purchased to allow right to it as your logo? We'd really need to look at the contract and the verbiage within Canva. I believe that you can use it as a logo. Where you would start getting into some trouble would be, say you use some of those images. Let's say you were a marketing company and you were creating logos for others and selling that, those images that you got from Canva. I think that Canva would have an issue with that, but it would really depend on the contract and the language that Canva has. But if Canva decided to take you to court, you would have defense covered by your insurance policy, and then just depending on what the judgment is, when you go to court, you might get some coverage or payment there. Okay, so talking about classes, because I know that's a big hot topic, which is kind of what got me thinking that it would be good for me to do a live on this stuff. So I have Flip right now. I know a lot of people use Flip. Flip itself is not an insurance company. The company that writes Flip insurance is Great American. If you look at your policy, at the very top you'll see Great American's logo. It'll say like Flip Insurance underwritten by Great American. And the type of policy that this is, it's called a risk purchasing group. So all of us home bakers are under one big master policy, and then we all kind of all pool in and participate, kind of like Sugar Cookie Marketing or the Cookie College. If you're in the Cookie College, plug for the Cookie College. If you're not in the Cookie College, definitely think about it. And then after you think about it, do it. So we are all kind of in this pool. We're all paying into this pool of insurance. We all have our own sub-limits. So we all have our own 1 million, 2 million. You've probably seen that. And we'll go into what those two numbers mean. But if something were to happen, let's say we all use the same meringue powder, and that meringue powder is recalled because there's glass in the meringue powder, and we all submit claims because all of our customers are getting sick, and so we're like, okay, we got to file a claim for this. All of our customers are filing claims. Yes, the meringue powder maker would be brought into this lawsuit, but so would we, because we produced this product. We were the ones who gave this product to our customers. So everybody's submitting claims into this risk pool. There is a possibility for those funds within this master policy to be exhausted before everybody gets paid out. That's one of the cons of having a policy like this. One of the pros is that it's a lot more cost effective because we're all of the same type of risk paying into this same kind of insurance pool, the same, bucket of money. Is that likely to happen? No, but in reality, nothing in insurance is likely to happen. Otherwise, insurance wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be able to afford insurance if everything, it was likely to happen. So just caution, if you're a paranoid person, I would recommend looking at different avenues there. I'm talking about flip. So somebody asked the question, does flip cover classes? So flip has an endorsement or an attachment to their policies that say you can do business anywhere you want. You can do business, I can be in Arizona, I can go to New York, I can go to Texas, I can go to Florida, I can go anywhere in the United States and be covered. But all of the things that I'm doing have to be listed on my certificate of insurance as an operation. On the certificate of insurance, it will say home-based baker, vendor at markets, keywords like that. It does not say cookie classes or cooking classes unless you purchase professional liability. Professional liability is going to be specific for the profession that you are in. For example, an accountant. And accountants will still have general liability. Somebody comes into their office, they trip and fall. That's going to be a general liability coverage. If I'm an accountant and I am, working up your numbers and I mess up your numbers, I make an error in the profession that I'm in, the consequences and any losses, any lawsuits or anything like that come from that error that I made in my profession is what professional liability will cover. It's really difficult I'm not saying it's impossible to have a professional liability error with what we do in teaching classes, but it is going to be even less common than a lot of other professions, even a lot of other cooking class categories. So other cooking class categories, you might be instructing somebody how to cut onions and they can cut themselves. That would be professional liability because you were showing them how to do that and they, did it wrong and cut themselves. Or you're making sushi and you're teaching people how to make sushi and there's that fish that has to be cut a certain way, otherwise it releases poison basically and it can poison people. You show them wrong and that would be professional liability. I'm really trying to think of an example that would apply to us decorating cookies, because we're not baking the cookies, we're not mixing anything. I guess you could use the example of meringue powder. Meringue powder can, some doctors advise against pregnant women eating meringue powder. So if you said, hey, meringue powder is totally fine, anybody at all can eat it, don't even worry about it, you're class attendees go out and make some cookies, give them to a pregnant person, and they get sick. That could be a professional liability claim. However, Flip requires you to have purchased professional liability from them if you are going to teach classes in order for them to cover general liability in your class. So if you do not purchase professional liability, somebody comes to your class, trips over that cord, even though it does not have anything to do with the profession that you do, because cooking classes is not listed on that certificate of insurance, they will not cover you for it. This is a question that I would ask your insurance company when you get a quote. I do not recommend getting quotes only online. You can start a quote online, but definitely talk to an agent. Get them to clarify that for you on the recorded line. Ask them to double check with an underwriter. Just make sure that they're giving you a very clear answer on whether cookie classes would be covered, people coming into your home and teaching cookie classes, or you going into other people's homes to teach cookie classes. That's, people coming into your home is just another mess, which I can talk about as well. All right, we have a question. Is certificate of insurance the same as a policy or proof of insurance? So a certificate of insurance is going to be your proof of insurance. Why they want to make it different terminology, I don't know. Proof of insurance is normally a terminology used for auto. Certificate of insurance is used for commercial general liability. Evidence of insurance will be for property. I don't know. We just like to make things complicated in insurance because why not? Your certificate of insurance is something that it's not the same as your policy. It's just kind of the sheet that says this is a highlight of the policy that they have. It'll have the company name on it. It'll have the policy number. It'll have the start and expiration date. It'll have the date that certificate was issued. It'll have your policy limits. And it might have a certificate holder, which could also indicate additional insured or waiver of subrogation. What is an additional insured? Actually, let me talk about the limits before we get into an additional insured. So you'll see the 1 million, 2 million, that's the most common. Anything less than 1 million, 2 million is not really saving you any money, and you might as well just bump that up to the 1, 2, because claims are expensive. 1 million, 2 million means that you have $1 million per occurrence and $2 million aggregate for the policy total. So every one claim, the insurance company will not pay out more than $1 million. And this doesn't have to be just one person. You could have one claim that is impacting multiple people. And the $2 million is for your entire policy period. So if you have 2 $1 million claims, you've exhausted your policy limits. If you have 4 $500,000 claims, then you've exhausted your policy limits. So you can, break that down. 1 million doesn't mean that they will pay 1 million every single time. It could be less. The judgment. So if you go to court, the judge might say, "Hey, you owe 2 million for this claim." The insurance company will pay 1 million, and you will be on the hook for the second million. These limits do not include defense costs. So they will represent you in court as long as there's coverage on the policy for something like this. And that will be a separate cost. There's no limit to the defense costs as long as you continue to have money in that bucket, in that 1 million, 2 million bucket. What was I going to hit on after limits? Additional insureds. Question before I get to additional insureds. Do you know if FLIP general and or professional liability covers vendor events? Yes. FLIP will cover vendor events under their general liability. Just want to reiterate, general liability is things that really are not your fault. There's nothing that you could have helped with that. It's a trip and fall. It is a, somebody gets sick because of the food that you made, things like that. Professional liability is going to be strictly having to do with your profession. Let's say that you and your sister, your maybe twin sister, have a group on Facebook that teaches people how to market their baked goods, and you give some information that maybe is out of date or inaccurate. I would definitely recommend that you have professional liability for something like this in case that comes back to you. Or if you are a tax person, or if you are a doctor, you might have heard of malpractice insurance. Malpractice is not something that doctors do on purpose. No insurance company is going to cover anything that's done on purpose. Malpractice is just make a mistake. They were supposed to cut the left leg off and they accidentally did the right leg. That's going to be a big lawsuit, and that's going to be covered under malpractice insurance. That doctor had it out for you and they purposely cut the wrong leg off. That will not be covered under their malpractice insurance. Additional insureds. So you might be going to a vendor event, or you might be teaching a class. You might be selling concessions at a school, or even doing a fundraiser with a school, and they ask to be an additional insured. Additional insured basically adds that other party onto your policy, and if a lawsuit is brought on, you're both covered. If I were to get really brave, I might ask the vendor or the person putting on that vendor event to add me as an additional insured on their policy. Will they do it? Probably not, but it would be a good idea too, because there are so many guests that come to these vendor events, and it could be hard to distinguish between who owns that liability. So if somebody is walking in front of my booth, they trip and fall, they break their arm, they could say, well, I was walking to the Little Bus Cookie Co. and that, they're responsible for it. Or they could say, well, I was just walking around, it just so happened to be in front of that booth that I fell. So maybe you both get brought into court, and now they have to divvy up the liability. If you are both additional insureds under each other's policies, then there will be less arguing from the insurance companies of who should pay out for this claim. So just, very detailed stuff. I have not asked anybody to add me as an additional insured, but hey, why not try it? Doesn't hurt. Let's see. What other questions do you have? Throw in questions. What else do I want to tell you about? Auto insurance. If you saw my little bus that I posted there in the group to remind everybody of the live that I'll be teaching, you will see that it is completely branded. If I have that vehicle on a personal policy and I get in an accident, it's going to be really difficult for me to say, hey, no, this is not a commercial vehicle. This has nothing to do with my business. I'm just driving along. Just get yourself some commercial insurance, brand your car, slap that logo on there, put your website on it, but just make sure that you have commercial insurance. Even if you're just driving it to go get supplies, doing a delivery, all of these things are related to your business, and you could be on the hook for any claim that happens while you're doing this. Yes, you could lie and say, no, I was just going to the grocery store for my own thing, but that's technically insurance fraud. And you could get in bigger trouble for that. Just get the commercial insurance policy. Your limits are higher. A lot of times actually it's cheaper than personal insurance, just because they assume that a business owner might be more responsible than an individual. My dog is not deciding whether he wants to be inside or outside. So that's the thing on commercial insurance. Inland marine coverage. Checking for questions. No questions. Inland marine coverage. Inland marine is going to be for anything that doesn't just sit on your, or that isn't just bolted to your floor, to your walls, wherever. So if you have equipment that goes places with you and you want to make sure that it's covered in case it's stolen or flies away in a storm or whatever, get yourself an inland marine policy, and get that protected. If you have some big equipment, I have a commercial oven, for example, that's unlikely to be covered under my home insurance if anything were to happen. So if there was a fire or anything crazy like that. We don't have hurricanes in Arizona, but if you're in a hurricane prone area, you want to make sure that your equipment is covered, so definitely ask your insurance agent about that. Some insurance companies that I would look into besides Flip would be Buy Berk. It's B-I, so like business insurance, Berk, B-E-R-K. It's a Berkshire Hathaway company, so like Geico. They do not cover classes, but if you're not doing classes, that would be a good company to look into. I did a quote with them and it was about $25 a month, so I think that's pretty comparable to Flip. But you get your own policy, you get your own policy number, and you can do whatever you need with it. They pretty much write in all states. I'm in Arizona, but I've done insurance in Texas and Ohio, and I've been licensed. I think I still am licensed in the continental U.S. No Alaska or Hawaii, unfortunately. Sorry. Home insurance and commercial insurance blending. Ideally, it would be great for you to be able to get a policy with the same company. I'm not talking about the same insurance agent. I'm talking about the same company to cover both your business and your home, because then there won't be any blurred lines when it comes to liability. So let's say you have a customer coming to a pickup. I love to use the trip and fall analogy. They come, they trip, they fall on your driveway. Technically that's your home insurance, but they were there for your business. So your home insurance could say, we're not going to cover that. So your commercial policy might say, well, they were in your home, we're not going to cover it either. So, it can get tricky. If you're with a reputable company, financially stable, A+, or A-, A-, A+, Actually, I take that back. A+ and above. There's A+ and there's A++. You could do A. Definitely in the A's. No B. Financially rated companies. Definitely an A something rated company would be good. To make sure that they're not going to be super nitpicky about your claim and say, well, no, we're not going to cover it because of this silly little reason. Just ask, again, your insurance agent. Question here, do you think flip is a good place to start? I think it's a good place to start. I just didn't appreciate the fact that they force you to have professional liability in order to cover the general liability portion of your classes. That didn't feel good to me. The analogy that I use to equate it to us is to say, hey, if you order Christmas cookies, then I will do your Easter cookies. If you don't order Christmas cookies, then I'm only going to do cupcakes. And it's like, what does that even mean? They don't have anything to do with each other. So I thought it was silly, though that's just a personal thing that I probably need to talk to my therapist about. So you don't have to follow my example, but just letting you know why I'll do it a certain way. But yeah, I mean, I think flip is good. Like I said, buy Burke would be good, and I'll put those in the comments here, so in case you needed to reference later. Another decent company is Hiscox, Hiscox. I'm going to say I don't recommend flip because that could fall back on me as a liability, but I personally am shopping my insurance policy away from flip. I'm not doing classes yet, so I might look into buy Burke. When I do classes, though, I would want somebody who's going to cover that. I do believe Hiscox would, so definitely look at that one. Thimble, like a sewing thimble, is another one that I would look into. Thimble also offers what we call episodic insurance, so you can buy it for a day, a weekend, a week, a month, whatever, an event, a specific event, things like that. I always recommend having a continuous policy. You just never know when something's going to happen. One of the questions that a lot of insurance companies will ask you is, have you had continuous coverage for the last 6 months? If you say no, that might be an issue. So definitely make sure to keep your insurance coverage always relevant or always up to date. Another thing you could do is you could go to progressive.com. Progressive actually partners with a whole bunch of different insurance companies, and they might shoot out some different recommendations or suggestions for who would cover you. But even if you get a little button that says purchase this policy now, talk to somebody, ask them these questions before you buy that policy. I do not work for any of the companies that I have mentioned. The company that I work for does not do home-based baker businesses, so I won't even mention them. Who else would be good? I've heard Liberty Mutual has a good product out there, and they also do home insurance, and they're pretty much in all states, so you can take a look at those. And again, so questions you'll want to ask about will be if they cover a home-based baker. You could even ask them if they have a limitation of coverage to the described operations exclusion on their policy. Ask about people coming to pick up products from your home. Ask about hosting cookie classes in your home, and ask about hosting cookie classes in other people's home. If you're doing something like that. If you're just doing cookies, custom cookies, pre-sales, all that stuff, even vendor markets, you should be good to go. Vendor markets, clarify that they do that as well, because of that high foot traffic. Some insurance companies aren't super excited about doing those, so make sure to ask about that, clarify with that insurance agent if they're going to cover something like that. Don't take an I think or you should be fine for an answer. Make sure that they are confident in the answer that they're giving you, because sometimes they don't know, and they deal with a lot of different types of businesses and a lot of different insurance companies, so it varies between them, and it varies from state to state, company to company, what the Department of Insurance regulates and doesn't regulate. So just get that clarification for your own peace of mind. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Not seeing anything here. What other questions do you guys have? I'll talk about an umbrella policy too real quick. So an umbrella policy kind of goes over everything that you have. There's commercial umbrella and there's personal lines umbrella. So if you have a commercial umbrella policy, you get an extra bucket of money to go over your underlying liability, so your general liability and or your auto. If your lawsuit, your claim, whatever happens were to exceed that bucket of money that you have for the general liability or the auto, then your umbrella could pick up some of that stuff. It's usually a couple $100s a year more, so I think it's worth it. You could have a personal one as well, so you could have an umbrella policy over your home and your auto. If you have teenagers, I highly recommend having an umbrella. If you have multiple homes or even a boat or an off-road vehicle, I would recommend having that for your personal insurance. Maybe some crazy dogs, it would be good to have an umbrella policy. I have insurance for my dog, health insurance for my dog. I highly recommend that as well. He looks at me funny and off to the vet he goes, so that's really nice. He had to have surgery on one of his paws and it was like $7,000 and my policy covered all that, so it was really nice to have that. Can you tell I really like insurance and think everybody should have it for everything in the world? I know Heather says that she likes to be overinsured, but I would challenge her to an overinsured challenge. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions come through. I feel like I've covered a good bunch in the 20-ish minutes that we've been here. So if you come up with any other questions, feel free to shoot me a message. If you're shopping around for insurance and you're like, hey, I have this question, or they said this word and I don't know what it means, or I asked them this question and they didn't really clarify, shoot me a message. I'd be happy to help answer and kind of guide you in how to speak insurance and talk to your agent so that they can give you the right answers and not give you the runaround on anything. So thank you all so much for joining me today on this wonderful Sunday. I hope you guys are all having beautiful weather, some nice sun going on like I do back here. And we'll see you around. See you around the group. And if you're in the college, see around there. And if you're not in the college, join us, because it's going to change your world. Bye, everybody.